Hey everybody and welcome back. People have been asking me to do a ThreeI Atlas update. I hate ThreeI Atlas. Well, what I really hate is the shit talked about it being an alien craft. It might be, I suppose, but actually it's much more interesting than you think. So where is it at present? ThreeI Atlas is on the other side of the sun from us. When it eventually comes round, we'll see if it's behaving badly. I sincerely hope not. ThreeI Atlas is truly amazing for something that people aren't really saying. First of all, big shout out to the Atlas team, my friends in Hawaii, for spotting it with their Atlas telescope in Chile. They have one in Chile, two in Hawaii, and one in South Africa, which is looking for asteroids. And they found this object which is not from around here. ThreeI Atlas is behaving badly because it's not from here. So let's talk about that and actually understand why it is behaving so badly. Every single, I believe, comet that people are saying that it is, and it probably is, but it's a very, very, very strange comet. All of them come from our solar system. Everything made in our solar system, from Mercury to Neptune and the Oort cloud and the comets and you and me, we've all been made by elements that were cooked inside our star, the sun. In fact, a very limited number of elements. Every star is a fusion reactor, and it fuses primordial hydrogen, because that's all there was at the birth of the universe, we think, into heavier elements by forcing them together by heat and pressure. And hydrogen eventually gets fused into helium and then up through the chain. In our star, the sun, because of its size, because of its heat, because of its mass, it made hydrogen into helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, and all the way up to iron, which is 25 elements, maybe 26. I can't count.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatine, and radium, and gold, actinium, and indium, and gallium, and iodine, and thorium, and thulium, and thallium. There's yttrium, ytterbium, actinium, rubidium, and boron, gadolinium, niobium, iridium, and strontium, and silicon, and silver, and samarium, and bismuth, bromine, lithium, beryllium, and barium. I left out one, actually. A new one was discovered since the song was written. It's called Lawrencium. So those of you who are taking notes can write it down in your programs. There's holmium and helium and hafnium and erbium and phosphorus and francium and fluorine and terbium, manganese and mercury and molybdenum, magnesium, dysprosium and scandium and cerium and cesium and lead, praseodymium and platinum, plutonium, palladium, promethium, potassium, polonium, tantalum, magnesium, titanium, tellurium, and cadmium and calcium and chromium and curium. There's gold and californium and fermium, berkelium, and also mendelevium, einsteinium, nobelium, and argon, kryptonium, radon, xenon, zinc, and rhodium, and chlorine, carbon, cobalt, copper, tungsten, tin, and sodium. These are the only ones of which the news has come to Harvard. And there may be many others, but they haven't been discovered.
And that's it. When it got to iron, that's the maximum fusion that it could ever produce. So everything, you, me, the wood, the stone, everything is made of those basic elements. Although there are other elements, think about it, like gold and lead. Anything heavier than iron did not come from our star, the sun. It came from another star as a solid material and landed on Earth, probably from supernovas that needed the energy to make extremely heavy elements, like the super heavy radioactive elements, although even those can't be produced in stars, and some of those were only produced man-made. Up over a certain element number, in the hundreds, they were made in reactors here on Earth. But folks, everything in our solar system is built of just about the same elements. We're very lucky to have hydrogen and oxygen to make water, and water is extremely odd. We're lucky to have carbon. And we're lucky, to have the basic elements that make up our world. But ThreeI Atlas was born out of a different star. It's made with different elements. It behaves badly. It doesn't behave like a normal comet. It's made of different stuff. That's the only interesting thing. It's silly to say it's extraterrestrial and might be behaving badly because it's technology. No, it's really fascinating because it's extraterrestrial and not like us. This is one of my favourite punk poems from my era in the 70s. It's called I Married a Monster from Outer Space. I fell in love with an alien being whose skin was jelly, whose teeth were green. She had the big bug eyes and the death ray glare, feet like water wings and purple hair. I was over the moon. I asked her back to my place, and then I married the monster from outer space. When we went walking, tentacle in hand, you could sense that the earthlings would not understand it. Go nudge, nudge when we got on the bus, saying it's extraterrestrial, not like us, it's bad enough with another race. But fuck me, that's a monster from outer space. In a cybernetic fit of rage, she buggered off to another age. She now lives in 1999 with her new boyfriend, a blob of slime. But each time I recall her translucent face, I remember my monster from outer space, and that's what we've got. We've got a monster from outer space. It's extraterrestrial, not like us. Get it right. It's not necessarily technological. I mean, I like Avi Loeb. I like the Avi Loeb shiny rock theory that, if you showed somebody something that was, that's not very technological. If you showed something technological to a Stone Age person, they would go, shiny rock. But I don't really think ThreeI Atlas is interesting because it's a shiny rock. I think it's interesting because it's extraterrestrial, not like us. So let's see what happens when it emerges from the other side of the sun. It bloody better be on the course that I'm expecting it to be, because we don't want it to have slowed down. Hang on a minute. I mean, that's the other thing. So much misinformation out there. I think it's really sad that JPL and NASA are on hold right now because of this stupid lockdown in the US. But other satellites are watching it. There's lots of solar satellites who are actually observing ThreeI Atlas when it's out of sight from the Earth right now. And it is behaving normally. ESA, European Space Agency, say it's behaving like a normal comet. There's a tail coming out at the back as it's off-gassing alien stuff. Things like cyanide. We don't normally off-gas cyanide. It's because it's extraterrestrial, not like us. I know it's been badly behaved, but it probably won't break the laws of physics. It will orbit the sun, get a kick from the sun, and bugger off. That's what I think. So that's why I'm not really buying all this angry astronaut theories and Avi Loeb theories. I mean, it's hysterical. Stuff that I've been seeing on Fox News and News Nation about ThreeI Atlas. I've even heard that, Space Force are being mobilized in case it invades Earth. I mean, F off. I mean, it really isn't. It's really, really interesting because it's extraterrestrial. Anyway, in other news, as they say, I found another couple of stories that you might like. I read this Substacky bloggy thing called Medium. Tim Ventura writes a lot on Medium, and you should really subscribe. It's worth it for breaking news. But there's a really great news story that 47 massive new Russian submarine listening stations are being built in the Arctic by Russia. And there's been satellites and submarine and shipping interest by NATO watching them being constructed. Russia, for some reason, are building this network through the Arctic to track NATO submarines. And they've been building it for ages. But then, this week, they all disappeared overnight. Literally, they were seeing the piles of the construction, the buildings were slowly going up. There were 47 of them. They were individually tracking, and then they disappeared. Over effing night. Disappeared. It was a ruse. Russia were having a laugh. They were fake. It turns out that Russia has actually, it's been revealed, has launched a thermos flask floaty submarine detection system that will free float in the sea and actually track submarines. And these 47 stations were fake. They were just a film set. They were there to distract NATO. Brilliantly weird story. But in other breaking news, I read on Medium that Russia has built a time spiral in the Arctic. Well, they built a time spiral in the Arctic. Back in the 1990s, a massive silver metallic spiral was built at a place called Dixon, an Arctic research station. And they had a history, supposedly, with locals of time dilation and time disturbances. And so the Russians back in the 90s decided to build something that would maybe amplify these time distortions that the locals reported in legends or actually experienced at this Dixon place. And they built this massive spiral. And what they were using it for is really interesting. The massive spiral reflective time thingy was for remote or distant viewing for the Russians. You have to remember, the remote viewing isn't looking at something way away, it's looking at something in time as well. The remote viewing program that SRI and the CIA did is much more about space-time, space and time. So maybe the large spiral that was built in the 90s amplified those effects for the Russians. I'll try and put as many links in the description to those three stories. 3i Atlas is actually extraterrestrial and not like us. And second, the 47 sub bases which were fake and the time spiral. Link in the description to the Medium articles. Worth reading because the truth is out there.